Present. Jan?
Here.
Millie is absent excused. Michael?
Here.
Okay. Chanel? Here. And Mayor?
Here.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, we can begin.
Consent agenda, moving on to that.
Move to adopt consent agenda. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any of this want to be discussed? Good. Reports from city officials. We'll start with the administrator.
Hearing from the public, Mr. Mayor. Hearing from the public.
Oh.
Where are your glasses?
Yeah, that's not possible. All right, here's from the public. Anybody got anything to say?
It's not my turn.
Yes, sir.
It's the first time I've ever been here to complain about anything. But I'm getting tired of almost getting run over in the crosswalk going to South Harbor. We need a lot more, police enforcement of that crosswalk there. I'm telling you, you're a target in the crosswalk. It's not a place to cross, you're a target. I've been hit once, I've been grazed another time, I've had to jump out of the way a couple of times. One of the times that we had to jump out of the way, me and my wife and our dog, I come up to the police department and I walked into the police department, I had the make of the car, and I had the license plate of the car that almost hit me. And we were already in the midway of the street, and the car went around us and had to go in over to where the cars park. So I went into the city to tell the people up there to complain about it, and the woman said, "Oh my God, that was my son." So the woman that worked behind the desk up here was her son. I doubt if that ever got to the chief of police about that. The time that I was hit, Jim C. was the chief of police. I called him, he took care of it, he contacted the guy, and the guy said he didn't see me. He was old, he's had bad vision. But folks, I'm here to tell you that somebody's gonna get hurt or killed at these crosswalks right here, the way people treat these crosswalks in this town. People just drive through them, they don't care whether you're in them or not. I go to my boat every day in South Harbor, half of the last 25 years. I can't tell you how many near misses I've seen there. Does anybody have any questions of me? Yes.
I do. So what would be your suggestion for the crosswalks?
Have the police there, write some tickets.
Increased police enforcement of the crosswalks?
Yeah, because it's not enforced. I mean, you know, I've never, in all my years there, I've never seen a policeman there, ever, not once, ever. I see them around town in different places, but I never see them there when that takes place.
Brian, how much would like a light or a flashing light, kind of like the school district one, would usually cost?
I don't know what the cost would be. The state would have to support putting it in after state highway.
Okay.
But I can talk to both RJ and talk to the state.
Same.
What about speed trap cameras? You could help it pay for itself.
We can discuss it with RJ. I already talked to him when he called me or texted me and told him that we need to work on some enforcement there of some type.
And I made it up to do the same.
Well, I already did a week ago, so I don't know where he's at on it.
Well, you know, my only thing is somebody's gonna get hurt or killed in these crosswalks. Sooner or later, it's gonna happen. I mean, you know what it's like. You go down there every day.
Hans, what do you have?
I was just gonna mention that earlier this summer, we had an incident, had a close call. We do have some cameras that shine on that area. When we found the vehicle, it was like a rental Toyota, so we couldn't really trace it back and we couldn't get a license plate number. So maybe a better camera system might help that. But I agree, people don't respect crosswalks in this town in general.
And that's where I have a question, and we all kind of live in the same area, is, so you know down at our street, when we cross to go to the grocery store?
Right.
I do that with my kids all the time, that, for whatever, that crosswalk, people really stop, like, I'm surprised, cause I'm calling the 3 children, I'm surprised at how many people stop and like wait, I'm like, oh, go ahead, I still got one coming along. So like that crosswalk, I feel like people, is it because it's like down in a bowl, do you think, or do you think both of them are a problem? You're saying
Well,
crosswalks.
the one that you crossed is the one I was hitting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's more than just.
But I haven't crossed in that crosswalk, you know, other than to go to the grocery store. I mean, I used to do it every day because I used to work behind Thompson House.
Yeah.
But I don't go there anymore. I mean, I don't use that crosswalk anymore, but I do use the one going to the harbor every day. I go check my boat every day.
So are you seeing it more as just the harbor crosswalk or a crosswalk in general?
I'm not gonna say in general. I'm specifically here to complain about the crosswalk going to the harbor and the people running through that and almost running over people there.
Cause I can kind of see that one, it's kind of, on the way it kind of is down the, where the other one are kind of up and you kind of see people more visibly than.
Well, it's obvious.
There's so much trucks and people.
The cars.
Yeah, the
and
cars, there's so much
parking
lots.
lots.
So
Where
the
the
other
other times I
ones-
haven't noticed
Yeah.
people standing.
Where the other one, you kind of come up on the hill, you can see everybody.
I followed one of Quigley's trucks almost hit me. And I followed him all the way out onto the dock and got into his case and same thing. I didn't see you. Right there, I'm a big guy.
Lonnie, let RJ speak.
I was just gonna say, in the past 3 months, my agency has had one report of somebody not stopping in the crosswalk, and that was dealt with. If nobody reports it to my agency, it's tough for me to go out and enforce something if I don't know about it. I mean, with the camera, there is good video there, and that's what basically nailed the other guy. So if people report it, then we will definitely look into it, and if we can charge somebody, cite somebody, we definitely do that. But if nobody's reporting it, what am I supposed to do?
Go ahead, Lonnie.
I've reported 2 of them and I've never gotten a call back. So I quit reporting them.
At the police station?
Yes, and like I said, one of the ones that I reported to the police station, the woman that was behind the counter, it was her son that almost hit us. Because I went right up to the police station and reported. I drove in there and walked in there to report that near miss. And it was her son, and I doubt if she ever forwarded that.
I would be more than happy to review video and phone logs. I can get with you later, Lonnie, if I can narrow down a specific time frame, because if my staff didn't report something on, that's a separate issue.
Well, the lady that was there, I'm telling you about, is no longer there. The one with the son that almost ran over me.
Okay, no, that was forwarded over, and that kid did get a ticket.
Oh, he did? Oh, yeah. But nobody let me know about it. I mean, if I don't know about it, then I don't know anything's been done.
Right. No, and I mean, yeah, once the ticket was issued, it was probably the officer just, we try to get people, when they call and complain, they call back, let them know what's happened with the case.
You've been very understaffed for a long time too.
We have, but it still doesn't negate the fact that it might take me 2 or 3 days to get back to somebody, but I'll still do it.
Chanel?
Me, what I'm hearing most of the time is that people aren't being seen in this crosswalk. So I don't think that it's the police enforcement or reporting it. I think we need to make some type of light, visual, flashing, something that catches drivers that are possibly gazing at the boats as they drive by instead of at the crosswalk, or something more like that to possibly help pedestrians not being hit and cars stopping there, more so than let's just report it and give the people a ticket, because people, by the sounds of it, are saying they didn't see the person instead of just neglecting it altogether.
Something I've seen that's effective in some other areas that have this problem is they get those big orange flags and put them on both sides of the street, so when people are crossing, they're holding a really big, bright orange flag. It's easier for cars to see, and it can, just a thought, something like that, because that gets that visual where they can see them and be a little more aware, oh, there's a person. So, just something along those lines could be helpful, where we're visually helping to help pedestrians to be seen.
we can talk to the state, and see if they'll do something for us, and RJ will pursue a little more. Checking the cameras if it gets reported, it's gotta be reported before we check the camera.
Well, and the other thing too is, and I know this is annoying, but the little bumps in the road to alert people that there's a crosswalk coming up, which I have, not like a speed bump, boom, but like the little, like kind of making you aware that it's coming up. I don't know, those are just some ideas to alert people, like I said, it's, an average camera before you got to it, it's kind of down in that hole, and you kind of can't, because there's so much happening there, you kind of lose the.
I don't know, I mean, from my perspective, if you're driving, it's the driver's responsibility to make sure if they're coming to a crosswalk or not. If they're distracted and they're not looking, that's illegal. It's distracted driving. I think if we got, one or two traffic stops right in that area, if we, a little bit of publicity, word would spread out. I don't know if that's gonna stop or not, but it would definitely help.
Yeah.
It's been my experience, because we cross, me and my 3 children on bikes and on all kinds of good stuff, we cross all the time, up, not that far from it, by the grocery store, and I'm amazed at how many people stop and wait and everything, so it's been a different experience over the years.
I see the same thing at the Annie Betty's one. It seems
Yeah,
like
those two.
everybody's always stopping for those.
Yeah,
But the other thing too, with the parking lot down there, people will be just standing there talking at the backs of their truck. And you don't know that somebody's gonna walk
That's
or
true.
what. I've stopped so many times and they're like, oh, go, we're just sitting here chatting. Maybe if it was made apparent where this crosswalk started and they wouldn't be just like standing in it or something, just to kind of give you some kind of a line there or something. Yeah,
My incidents have been in the crosswalk.
yeah.
I'm talking to somebody.
I get that, but I'm
Okay.
just, but I've stopped so many times and people are just standing there talking.
All right, we'll look into it.
Thank you for listening.
Anybody else, anything? Okay. We need to go over these ordinances.
No.
Okay, administrator.
Mr. Mayor, council, there's a staff report. I did want to note that under item 5, August 11th came and went, there were 0 responses. Zero responses about the daycare, no responses to the RFP. So, Mayor and I had a meeting with somebody later this month that might be interested. But generally, I'm back in a holding pattern. I'll come back to the council next month for some suggestions.
I have 1% might be interested too, maybe the same person, so we'll talk.
I'm open if you've got folks interested in talking to folks individually at this point. but,
Yes.
And then, just a heads up that Sherry will be in the office starting Saturday through September 2nd, doing some work here with staff. And a reminder that the Salmon Social is Saturday night, so hopefully everybody there.
We don't have a treasurer.
Sherry's on the phone, yeah, that's my help.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi,
You wanna report anything?
no, I've submitted a report, be happy to answer any questions if you have any. You'll see a few changes in the office with employees the next few weeks, but hopefully we're gonna get things back under control here soon. Or not under control, but cooler and people.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
that'll work. Thank you, Jerry.
you're welcome. See you guys in a few days.
Okay. Aquatic manager. You must be swimming.
Actually, yeah, it's back on a fuller schedule, so I'm guessing she's at school.
City clerk.
I also submitted a report, not a whole lot has changed on that, just want to let you know the next regular meeting that we'll have will be September 1st at 6:30, and that will be one again with all staff, so everyone will be here for that one. We just finished our elections, just to let you know, everything went very smoothly. That's all I'll be there. So we're just moving right along. We are looking still, to fill some of those, open seats, Michael. So we've got 2 that are open and we're trying to get some of the, if you know anyone that's wanting to, run for school board. We have some open spots there as well.
I'm gonna be here in the next meeting,
What's that?
September 1st, I don't even know the plans. for the meeting.
I won't be here
Well, let's see if we got a quorum.
I'll have Heather, kind of pull the rest of the council members here in the next week or 2. And if nothing else, we'll push off to the next second meeting. So,
Okay.
we may, we'll pick a date. Mayor and I will be out of town the second meeting date for Alaska Municipal League, so we may do one maybe the second Tuesday of September, or the second Thursday of September. That'd be the 8th. Does that sound like a workable date?
I would anticipate being here that day.
Okay. I'll have Heather call the council, but maybe we'll just plan on September 8th.
I'm fine for either way.
City planner.
I've submitted a written report, been a couple of small updates, mostly just things moving forward. For example, number 2, the power building funding, scope of work has been submitted, as well as the deed, which was not from the 30s, it's actually from 1976. And that is moving forwards. The SHSP grant has moved forward in that we've communicated and come to an agreement with Red Cross, so we'll be getting cots and blankets from them and supplementing the other half of those with purchased cots and blankets. We have a procurement form approved for that shipment of the Red Cross cots and blankets for the disaster trailers. So that's moving forward as well. And then building permits are picking up. It seems like prices are getting better on materials, so seeing a lot more folks coming in through the door.
Any questions? Nelson? Okay, fire and EMS coordinator.
I've submitted a written report, be happy to answer your questions.
Questions for fire and EMS? Okay, harbor master.
Mr. Mayor, I've submitted a written report, would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the harbor? Get the minutes off the floating dock.
There was 5 in the way, there's 1 left out there,
You know
so,
whose it is?
no. But I do have a vessel that can move it, I'm just trying to go through it the right way. If there's no good way to identify those nets.
No.
And so before we go through the whole trouble of taking it off there and filling up quite a bit of, we'd have to borrow Public Works' big flatbed trailer to move the thing, so.
It's a red tag on it.
It's a chore. The best way I could figure to, spread the word was I took a picture of the breakwater, and you guys probably saw it, and put big red arrows on it, so these nets need to move, and got a boat involved and moved quite a few of them. Moved 4 of the 5, but there's still 1 in the road, but the seine season's winding down too, so.
Yeah, they're pretty much gone to sick it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Library.
I submitted a report, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Any questions of our librarian? All right, police chief.
I think I submitted a report, but, couple things to add. made an offer to a former employee of the police department, Benjamin Page, to be the police sergeant. He has accepted the position, is basically slated to be here and ready to start September 13th. So that would be beneficial. Being that he worked here for almost 6 years, he knows the community, knows the department, the ins and outs. He's got one heck of a EM, which is electronic monitoring background, which once he gets started, then I can totally separate myself from that, and I won't have to do that. So that'll free me up for a lot of other stuff. The enforcement for the burn pit has been astronomical with the aid of Doug with the new camera system. In fact, I think I got writer's cramp that one day. But I mean, last count, we're up well over 30 tickets. They're $70 a pop. And we could be up close to 50 tickets. I mean, it's amazing the amount of people that are just still doing it. We have repeat offenders and so it's a progressive scale. Plus, the third time, if you get caught the third time, you'll be given a ticket and you will be trespassed from the property. And then if you go back, then it's no longer just a simple slap on the wrist. It's going to be a go to jail type thing. We did get an extra $3 million for contract jails, and initially I think they said that Greg was going to get $165,000. Then I was notified that they recalculated the formula, and we should get $195,000. Now, all the contract jails are fighting over this piece of the pie. Some contract jails want more and think others should get less. So that's why, I mean, none of the contract jails have seen a contract yet, so we're still in limbo. This is the first time since I've been with the city that we haven't had a signed contract at this particular time. So we're still working the particulars out on that. I know there's a ton of stuff going on, but I can't remember all of it off the top of my head, so we're just going day by day.
Yeah, sounds good. Public Works,
Submitted a written report. Be happy to answer any questions concerning that report.
any questions for Public Works? Okay, Recreation,
I think I submitted a report, I'm not sure, I think I put some pictures out. Oh, I did, pretty pictures, I like pretty pictures. We had a fantastic soccer season, I had the best time ever, last time was the best time. The Salmon Social is falling together nicely. I'm very excited, there's gonna be lots of food, lots of auction items, lots of dancing, we're gonna have a country line dancer, bring your boots. We're gonna have Doug Rhodes as the MC. It's gonna be a really fun evening, so please come Saturday at 6:30. I'd like to thank everybody for all their help to come. Anyway, it's really fun. Mike Sheets is making barbecue, and it was like, give him us a cookie, because now he wants buns, and he's gonna make baked beans and coleslaw, and we're gonna get 30 to 40 pounds of donated coho from the hatchery, and we're gonna cook that up. Norma Shakely's gonna help oversee everything. The volleyball kids are gonna do all the serving and set up and clean up. So it is coming together. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And I just was down at the harbor, and Officer Conley helped me pick the great big sign up. It kind of fallen down and went boom. So he was down there at the crosswalk for a while, contrary to popular belief. And so I mean, it's really cool to see the community come together and make this a wonderful experience. We didn't sell as many tickets as we have in the past. I think that's because there weren't that many king salmon. I don't think we have any kids for the kids derby. Ellen Hannon won the other one, and I think it was Doug Carl won the men's derby, the little mini derbies. But I think that was kind of fun too. And it's a lot of work. Ellie is in a wedding in Atlanta on Saturday, so she won't be here. I've got other help. I leave on the 15th of September for my 50th high school reunion, and I will be back, and Ellie will be back. We'll kind of just trade places there. But we are getting together a after-school program, and I think we've got some help in the hopper, and I think it's going to be just a great fall. Then we'll have in October, we'll have the swap meet, followed by the Harvest Festival, then we'll get ready for the bazaars, and then we'll get ready for me to retire at the end of the year. And I thought it would be harder, but it's really, I'm really pleased with who's taking over, it's gonna be great. And I'm gonna just hang out with my dogs and work in my garden, so. Any questions? And I'm open to suggestions for things people more things they wanna see, especially now that we're getting a little bit more help, we can expand some programming. So there, that's my story.
Okay.
Max, put another one on by. What time is it? Oh. 7:02. Okay. Oh, 7:03. All right.
All right. Parks and public facilities, Doug.
I've submitted a written report, and we haven't answered any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Doug?
I think the burn pit cameras have paid for themselves.
Well, and the goal is to, and I just haven't had the time, is that Doug and I are to get together so that my office can take over, reviewing the video and footage and take it totally away from Doug so he doesn't have to worry about it.
We'll just help maintain it.
Yeah.
Keep the equipment working.
I think the next thing we need to focus on is harbor cameras there.
We've had a couple, Good Samaritans actually snap some pictures of some folks that throw stuff in the dumpsters that don't have boats. That makes it really easy to enforce that. But I think cameras, would definitely catch way more than a Good Samaritan doing the report.
Well, those cameras at all so help us with crosswalk enforcement.
Yeah,
So if we put a pole up right in those dumpsters and then put a couple of cameras on it, one facing at the crosswalk and maybe 3 or 4 on our parking lot, crosswalk and dumpsters.
oh, I'm sure it would pay for itself and.
Short order. Well, because we have stuff come missing on boats and stuff in the parking lot, so this
Well, the one big
needs to be monitored.
culprit that was doing that has been caught, is in jail, but we do have a new person that is hitting fuel tanks on mainly the skiffs. Not the boats where you have to actually put boat or the tanks in the side of the boat, but then like you got a 5-gallon jug, they're siphoning that or taking that. Cameras keep honest people honest, and they help us really catch the criminals.
How long does the footage stay for the burn pit?
This was, we spent a little more money on this system, and therefore we put a larger hard drive so that we had a longer period of storage of the films, but the statute was like 30 days or.
Yeah, but with the way Doug's been doing it and taking either, basically he's been doing screenshots, emailing that to my generic email so that it doesn't matter who's working, we instantly get it. And then if we need video, then we will go to Doug and actually get the clip, because it's really easy to just text a photo or email a photo of the person, of the vehicle. And then I think we've done it twice, but I needed the actual video before I could identify somebody. But I mean, we're caught up to within like 48 hours.
Yes, I discovered that if you just review the previous day's footage the morning you come in, then you're always up to date. But then Monday takes several hours because I got to review Saturday and Sunday. So it does take some man hours to enforce this, but I think it's.
Well, like graveyard, once we get trained up on it,
It's worth.
we should be
spending
able to
time
be
on.
every 12 hours.
It's worth the investment time because the threat is that we're gonna lose the burn pit and nobody wants that. So I think that was what was driving this effort anyway, so.
Good job, then. Russell ain't saying nothing, but we put a totem pole mount out there in the graveyard for Ed Thomas, and we're hoping that the gardeners will get busy and get a totem possibly going too. Pat Gardner showed some interest in putting one along the trail there. So, thanks you guys for helping with that.
Yeah, Russell did,
Getting it in there.
his group did really nice on that night. Visually, it looks really good.
Well, a nice totem pole out there along the walking trail and there by the graveyard. And hopefully the garden will get theirs in there in the next year or so.
Yeah, looks good. Just the prep work looks good already.
Great. It's not really sure, I think they're gonna put that totem up around September 17th or so. But that's what I've been told, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Sorry.
I just want to comment, the parks and trails and things like that, your staff's keeping them up really nice, weeded and stuff, things look nice. There is one area that could tension, it's a safety issue, and it's right across from Island Repair. As you go around that corner of the mall, there's about every 3 years, they need to be nipped, because you can't see around that corner, there's a fire hydrant pole there, you just can't see around there, and, just nip them off every 3 years, so you gotta do it.
We got a new brush whacker
But,
somewhere.
Yeah, back at the shop. That was one of our goals, was to kind of get some of that taken care of, but
Out on the,
this fall, and actually, we did a good job going out to the burn pit and cutting all that down. Our guys needed some time, out of town to learn how to run that machine, so that this next year, we'll be able to run it more in town
okay.
and take care of more of those issues.
Yeah, because up there by the pool, we use it, and then out at JD Brown Street there, the industrial park too. So we can do this winter when there ain't so much traffic, or this fall.
Yeah.
Fall's already on us, I seen bees going south today, so
Yeah,
there's a big flight headed south.
wow.
So, interesting. Alrighty, any more questions for you guys? Alright, moving on. Any correspondence? Anything there we need to address?
I'll just comment, I like the idea of having somebody consider doing providing an opportunity to get fuel. I think the situation or the circumstances suggested here, probably not the best way to do it.
No. No. We were approached by CTA looking for a site to put in a fuel station too. So far, we haven't come up with a good idea yet, so we'll have to look at our lease sites and some of our land. See what we can do about Swamp Ellis's old lot. So, something that we may look into modifying and getting somebody in there hopefully. We've been discussing it, people. We'll see where it goes.
They own that lot, right? Okay, that's what I thought, that's not
Yeah,
city.
they have
That's two
it,
lots.
they have it up for sale right now.
Yeah, I didn't guess.
They pulled all the work site there and everything else, and they want you to sign a waiver of hazmat. No, they want you to sign a waiver. They don't want to clean it up. So,
But the tanks are bad, right?
no, the tanks were tested recently, they're good, but, it's more concerns about where the waste oil was stored in the back.
Yeah.
And those sites back in the back that we're concerned about. So, I don't know if DEQ would have to come in and do a survey or study on the site or.
Usually they require the responsible party to hire an engineer and do remediation.
So, anyway, we're trying to come up with ideas on how to make that site work if we can. And then Brian's been talking about different options. So, if we could go in and cap that ground, basically pave the whole thing over, and just sealed in whatever's in there, contaminants. You don't have to deal with it, other than just capping it. And if the state's good with that, we could do that, or whoever buys it could do that. It just depends on how far this has to go. That's what we know so far. All right, anything else on there you want to discuss? I know that CDL variance is getting talked about quite a bit.
The CDL what?
Variance.
Hmm.
An island like, or an island CDL like we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about doing them again, or several places in Alaska.
Yeah, I think it was an R restriction. that would work for the island.
Cause I had one and then they canceled it because they put too much pavement on the island.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yes,
is
sir.
that a state or federal regulation?
Believe it's federal, the one who's messing with us now. The work.
ELDT,
Maybe, is there,
ELDT changed federal.
yeah, it's on here.
Yeah, so the comments that are in the correspondence are addressed to the federal.
Yeah, that was our McCaskey list, right?
It was, yeah. And they're aware of it, the delegation's aware of it, and it's promising that the administration will grant the state of Alaska's variance, but it's working through its process right now.
Yeah, the state's working on it, and everybody, so hopefully we'll hear something shortly about a variance or another item, CDL basically. So, yeah. Yeah. All right, consideration of resolution and ordinances. The ordinance 748, fuel tax cap, final reading.
It's kind of confusing, Mr. Mayor, what if I jump in before the motion on the floor, just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that it's so confusing, but I'm
I
trying
like
to.
seeing physically jump in.
I'm trying to kind of negotiate between what the council's trying to accomplish and what the vendors are capable of doing, and where we're at. The original discussion, of course, was to cap how much per gallon that we would charge, or that we would only tax up to a certain dollar amount per gallon. The vendors, obviously, the vendors can't do that with the point of sale system, so that option is really not an option anymore. So I looked at some of the other options. It's a common option in Southeast Alaska even for bulk fuel providers to tax only so much. So they'll only tax the first $500 as a common number of fuel. The problem with that, as I pointed out in the memo, is that tends to favor large consumers and not provide a benefit to small consumers. I talked to Petro and Arrowhead both, and most of their residential customers, even at the high fuel prices, would just barely reach a $500 one-time refill cap. So there's little benefit there to most folks. And the other problem with that is that it quickly spins out of control in terms of how much sales tax revenue we would lose, right? And that was one of the concerns the council had. So that really leaves us two options. One is to set a lower sales tax rate specifically for fuel. And we can do that either at the vendor, have the vendors charge a lower sales tax rate. At least one vendor has not confirmed that it's possible for them to do that. I think it is. It's a common practice for alcohol establishments, for example, but so far I have not gotten confirmation from the vendors that that's possible. The other option, we could accomplish the same thing by offering a sales tax rebate on fuel, whereby people would submit their bill in a form and we would pay them. For example, 1% of the fuel cost, which would bring their tax rate down to 4%. That probably wouldn't work really well for everybody that goes out and gets 5 gallons of fuel at a time or 10 gallons of fuel at a time. One of the suggestions that I put in the memo was to consider maybe starting off with a narrower scope of benefit this year. And so I still think that it's a good idea to provide some relief to residents. My suggestion at this point would be that the council consider option B, which is the option to have a tax rebate and to limit it to fuel delivered, primarily heating fuel delivered to homes within the Craig City limits, which are taxable. That would give us a fairly narrow group that we could, that we would have to manage. It would provide maximum benefit for local residents. We're reaching the end of the fishing season, so, whatever relief we provide now would have much less benefit to the commercial and charter and recreational fleet as the season's coming to an end. So a good start might be to just concentrate on heating fuel as we're starting to come into it. Although today, I don't want to talk about heating fuel today, too muggy, but as we start coming into fall and winter season, if the council is looking to provide some relief to residents, my suggestion would be to adopt the ordinance with the tax rebate option to rebate 1% of home heating fuel as defined it in the memo. And I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
I have one concern that pops to mind with that option, and I'm for the whatever reason, because our whole objective is my understanding is while the fuel prices are high, we're trying to provide relief, because we're gonna get extra revenue because fuel prices are up. So let's provide some relief to not be kind of, in a way, gouging, so I'm in favor of this. My only concern, and I understand why you're favoring option D. My only concern with it is right now with the state of affairs with our financial department, are we adding another layer onto a department that's already got a lot of balls in the air?
Yes, and that's the simple answer. I don't know what the additional workload will be, but yes, this would require us to track, to have people submit forms and look over their invoices or their receipts and then cut them checks, and that's an additional workload for staff.
I've never even opened AccuFund, I don't even know what it looks like, which is.
Not to mention, you'd have to make sure they haven't submitted it before, and
Right.
all kinds of stuff.
So there would
I like
have
the
to
shoot
be-
with the vendors.
Yeah, and we can put it out there.
Easy to adjust up to a tax rate.
And I'm
Almost
happy to
every
do that.
system, even a simple cash register has tax 1, tax 2. I mean, there's like, it seems like it would be weird for anybody.
Yeah, I've got non-taxed OTC, taxable OTC,
Yeah.
RX.
And most of the point of sale systems, I mean, folks that I've talked to have that, but specifically one of the large fuel providers, they're waiting on an answer back from their accounting folks as to whether that's possible, because they're not sure it's possible in their system.
My gut wants to say is if they wanna do
Business
business
in-
within the city limits, they need to figure out a way to follow the laws of
Sure.
the city, but then my other gut wants to say we just lost a good vendor out of one.
And so, oh, I'm sorry.
My comment on that is federal cleaning up on us and they can get the software and do it in the 4%. We don't need to be doing any more work at City Hall. I can't imagine us taking in a form, having to physically look at the form and then having to cut a check to alter a 1% thing on a 5 gallon can of gas. Or even just heating fuel. Petro can figure out how to do 4%. They make literally millions of dollars off of that thing every year. They can get off their butts and get the 4% in their machine.
Not to mention, we're gonna get them more business.
I think so. So that would just simply then be selecting, out of the 4 options that I presented, option D, which is the reduced sales tax rate.
Or we could just throw it out altogether and make people pay the sales tax.
That's the other option. If council doesn't want to move forward with it tonight, the council can simply let the ordinance die or vote it down.
I mean, where does it stop? First we give them a tax break on fuel, and then, oh, well, a gallon of milk is more expensive than a gallon of gas, so everybody drinks milk, we'll not throw some tax on that, and then we're next, what it is.
Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, we're good.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very easily definable one though. Like the fuel, it's very obvious, the fuel price has gone up. We're making this additional revenue. It's hurting people. Like, I think it's a very straightforward one. It'll be very easy later on to adjust it back to the 5% without going back to the voters and all that stuff.
Yes.
Is it hurting people that are working or people that are not working?
Well, I think it's just hurting people.
I mean,
I'm working and my fuel bill is killing me for heating my house. and hot water and all of that.
I mean, I heat my whole building with diesel and I would love a tax break, but I also would love employees, so.
That being said, it's probably appropriate for a motion if there's somebody one. Unless there's other questions, which I'll be happy to kind of-
So this would be first reading, and there would still be a second reading, is that correct?
It's been through first reading,
Yeah.
but if the council wants to, it is a
Wait,
confusion.
so it went through first reading with all 4 options?
It went through first reading, only the first option. After that reading, we were told that the point of sale systems couldn't handle that, so I drew the other options up for the council to consider. One option would be if the council's not ready to, consider the ordinance tonight, is to go ahead and just move it to another reading next month. And if the council will give me direction as to which option you're most interested in, I can write a clean ordinance for the council to, consider at the next meeting.
I'm just confused how it went through first reading. How you could change something that fundamental and then have it be still gone through first reading. That's where I'm sure it's my lack of understanding, like, I hardly slept last night, so I'm just probably missing something.
And that works either way. The council can certainly carry it over for not vote on it, tonight, carry it for.
I'm just, what did it say in the first reading then? And so what? In first reading, was it just the 4% and it didn't define how that was being done? Is that what it was? Or what did it say in first reading?
The first reading essentially said that we would not tax anything above $4.50 a gallon. So it
Right, but we did have a discussion about
Yes.
some of the other possibilities at that time.
Yeah, which is why the council could certainly vote on it tonight, because at first reading, the council did have some discussion on some other options that are in front of you.
Okay. My suggestion, again, I'm just one, but I would say that we should bring it back to the next meeting as a clean ordinance with option B. Just so it's very, very clear. And then we can get it through in September, we're through the summer months. We're more likely hoping people that are here year round do first reading in September. That would just be my suggestion, but I'm open to other suggestions, obviously.
We call for a motion to move this to a second reading or reading later.
There's no motion on the table.
Yeah, I'm
so-
curious what other people think.
Actually, I'd like to put this on the floor.
Okay.
I move to adopt ordinance 748 with option B.
Okay, second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to put this on the floor. 788 with option B. Mike had a question first, I want to address it.
Well, it's just comments. If I was to suggest one of these, I would suggest B, because it's very clean, straightforward, no added burden to the city, and I think that's critical for the reasons, and there's a lot here, we have a lot on the table really. My only question would be that, have we had enough discussion with the vendors to determine that this can be done without, creating a lot of havoc for them and relatively straightforward without conflicts out of town, in town, or however that word can be, as long as we can do it simply. The concept of B is the one I do support.
Option B would be, if you're buying fuel in Craig, I mean, it wouldn't be somebody from Clock is buying fuel in Craig, they're gonna get it at 4%.
And
It would still follow all of our sales tax laws, just the same.
it's me with the alcohol tax, I have to pay 6% and it's simple math. It doesn't affect me, it's really easy.
So I would wanna be sensitive to our vendors and give them adequate time to adjust, like in this, I would wanna give them adequate time to adjust their computer systems to allow for it. I wouldn't want this to go into effect 2 days after and expect them to have it.
I would wanna give them some time to.
And we're pretty sure this isn't gonna affect taxes down the road, because we gave a break, and the city was relying on it because everything went up in price.
But this,
But no, but I'm saying everything went up in
I
price.
know, and well, the thing with this too, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going down to 4%, but this is something that we're gonna be reviewing periodically, and we can go back, and like if fuel prices go back down, we can go back up to the 5%. Is that addressing your concern or not? I don't think it is.
No, not really. No, I'm just saying that, I mean, like I said before, because we did this tax break, then the city's like, yeah, we're doing good, and then in 2 years from now, because we gave this tax break for a full year, we were relying on that money, but everything else went up in price as well. Not only did fuel go up, groceries are going up, shipping's going up. And so then we are continuing to pay the higher prices, but we gave the citizens or anybody buying fuel in Craig a break in taxes. And we lose that money, and we think it's okay now, but because things keep rising, then we have to compensate for that somewhere else. And property taxes, bed tax, sales tax later down the road, just things like that.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And I'll be
Right,
straight,
but there's a big difference in the fact that fuel went up nearly 100% all in one jump, and we're only doing this until June 30th. And if you look at the sheet, we're gonna make more money at 4% than we would have at 5% on regular fuel. So this is not the same thing as normal inflation. This is a gouging inflation by the federal government.
I know that shipping prices on barges have definitely gone up a lot.
Yes, they have.
So, and we rely on shipping to get to the island, anything.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on this and this is a roll call vote.
What's this? Okay. So this would be for adopting 748 with option B.
Correct.
Hannah,
Yes.
Michael,
I just want to I have one question here before we, looking at this is, in the motion, or in the resolution, is the sunset on here?
yes. And if you look where it describes option B, the last sentence says this provision is effective until June 30th, 2023.
And that covers if it's not on the resolution itself?
Well, the ordinance was sunset,
Okay.
which then makes the resolution here.
Just making sure, yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Chanel,
No,
Jim,
Yes.
okay. So ordinance 748 passes.
Okay. Resolution 2220, appointing Natalie Stone as clerk pro tem.
I don't have anything to add again.
That's it. Any questions on that, council?
Move to approve resolution 2220.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2220, appointing Natalie Stone as clerk pro tem. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Hannah,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Chanel,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
motion passes.
Resolution 2221, setting the sales tax cap on fuel and Craig. We've already addressed that.
No, this is the resolution, so the ordinance allows the council to set a lower tax rate by resolution.
I see.
This is the resolution setting the lower tax rate, so. Option B would be the one that lines up with the order with what the council discussed earlier. And the council can change that amount by resolution at any time. The council, when
22, 21.
Yeah.
I think I talked over Jim. Was that a motion to adopt, Jim?
Yeah.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 22-21, setting the sales tax cap on fuel and Craig. Any more discussion on this?
No, this is where I was confused earlier. Now I got it.
Okay.
Okay, Hannah,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
Jim.
Yeah.
Okay, resolution passes.
Okay, moving on to new business. Reappropriation request from Public Works for garbage truck.
Is this the new garbage truck?
No, this is on the side load garbage truck, and, what we ended up doing was that there was a change in the quote from the vendor, after we had, sat down and, set our budget. So this is the difference that we're asking for in the memo that I put together, so. That additional cost would be for the dump arm assembly, which is $9,098.61, and then of course, 5,000, almost 6,000 for freight. Well, these are big, heavy items. I mean, the arm assembly is, 20 foot long or so, and probably 300, 400 pounds. And this would also cover that additional freight for some of the parts that we were able to order that was already within the budget number.
So in essence, you're looking for 15,000 more.
Yes, sir.
Council?
I mean, if we need it, it's part of our infrastructure that we have to operate on. We have funding to do so.
And at least we have a place to pull it from.
No, this would not be new funding. This
Yes.
would be a capital project that's being pushed off to next year, and that likely will have some federal funding to
Exactly, so, yeah,
replace.
that's what I'm saying, at least we have a place to pull it from, but.
Move to reappropriate 15,000 from the WWTP roof project to the garbage truck repairs authorized in the city's capital reserve fund.
Second.
Motion been made to reappropriate funding from the roof fund to the garbage truck, $15,000. Any discussion on this anymore? Hearing none, voice vote,
Okay, Hannah,
Yes.
voice. Or no, that was roll call.
Yeah.
Sorry.
okay,
Just him.
Michael, Julie,
Yes.
Chanel,
Yes.
and Jim.
Yeah.
Okay, so the appropriation is approved.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Do you know, if this the arm has a warranty on it and for how long?
These arms, are generally designed, you've got a truck that's 7 years old, they're designed to run with, major repairs to them, 7 to 10 years. The issue is that there are, brass wear plates on this inner arm that, can only be welded on by the factory, and sent to us. And we had a specialist come up this last April from It's SWS, it's the solid waste company that we purchased that vehicle from. And went through the vehicle for us and said this was an item that needed to be replaced, right away. So actually, we originally went through the truck ourselves and said, these are the parts, and then we said, well, wait a second. We went ahead and spent the money, had the specialist come up, take a look, and run through the whole truck and said, this is exactly what we need. So that arm should last, hopefully another 10 years. I think the issue is that it's worn to a point where the adjustments that our mechanic can make on them, he can't make those adjustments, so it's worn beyond those specs.
Worn out.
Got it.
All right. Finance director hiring.
It's really just a housekeeping item from last night's executive session, so there's no really formal action in here. It's just the council can't take action during the executive session, so this is the open meeting action here, doing what council discussed last night. So this would be hiring an interim assistant finance director to do the day-to-day work and hiring a qualified individual or firm to do a review of the department. And both of those things are moving forward pending the council approval.
Yeah. Council vote on this.
Okay, Hannah?
Yeah, oh, sorry. I'm gonna make a recommendation to direct staff to hire interim assistant financial director with the interim position to be reviewed in 12 months. And direct staff to take steps to hire a qualified individual or firm to conduct a review of the finance department and finance software used by the city.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. What are all the things Julie's talking about?
Just came up with the comment.
I know, it's pretty answered. I appreciate that, 'cause I couldn't remember. Voice vote, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Jim?
I'll go for an aye. I kind of thought it was all supposed to be, contingent on the whole plan working out. But I'll vote aye on it.
If it makes you feel more comfortable, Jim, I had conversations with both the interim finance assistant and with the qualified individual, and everyone is on board. So it's just a matter now of working out the details.
We can put an asterisk next to your eye, say it was under duress.
Or call it, I think.
It wasn't necessary anyway, so don't worry about it.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. So we have an okay on that, good deal. Moving expenses for the police sergeant hire. Is everybody aware of what we're doing there? Council? Okay,
Yes.
any questions on that?
I would recommend, move to approve reimbursable moving expenses for the City of Craig Police Department sergeant hire. I'm tired, that word was really hard to sound out.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the moving expenses for the police sergeant hire. All in favor of that? Signify by yes.
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 Any nays?
Yeah. Okay.
What, were you lost?
Yes, I was, because I was looking at the wrong.
Jim, are you in favor of the code enforcement?
No.
Oh,
Moving.
moving expenses are the same thing.
Okay, so we did the sergeant first.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, sorry
Yeah,
about
I'm in
that.
favor of the sergeant hire.
I screwed up this one.
That.
That's why you're confused, man. Sorry, I confused you. Okay, code enforcement officer, sorry.
Sorry about that.
I was like,
I didn't even touch it, I went flying past it myself.
Yeah, I was like sitting here looking at it going, I don't even know
Let
what
me
he's
see
talking
all
about.
that.
Okay.
I'm probably high on fake deals right now.
I wouldn't let you go too far.
Alright, but we did handle that one, right? The moving
moving
expenses?
expenses.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so that one's been handled, okay, so now we're going back to code enforcement?
yes, we are.
Okay,
We're circling back.
okay, let's go back.
So can we get
After I butchered,
yeah, go ahead.
okay.
See if we can cut this one out.
Recommend and move to authorize the county police department to hire a code enforcement officer and grant the code enforcement officer authority to enforce Connecticut municipal codes under the direction of the Connecticut police chief.
Wow,
Second.
pretty darn good.
That-
So it's been made and seconded to hire a code enforcement officer. Any discussion on this? No.
I just have a question. It says that the only code enforcement officer right now that we have is the city planner.
Yes, so police officers, sworn police officers by their nature can enforce municipal codes as well as state and federal laws. But aside from sworn police officers, the only code enforcement officer identified in the municipal code is the Craig City Planner for a limited number of things. So this would simply give the police chief authority to designate a non-sworn officer as a code enforcement officer in this case.
Have we asked our planner, they feel like that was some authority, I haven't another body, you're okay, alright, just wanna make sure.
There's authority or fine sharing with somebody else.
Alright.
Is not the fun part of the job.
And Chief Ely, what would be the benefit to this for you and your police officers?
The benefit is that we are getting an increased amount of city code violations, which I have no problem enforcing and utilizing current staff. Now, the reason that this basically came before the council is, and maybe my standards are too high, but we get a lot of people that do apply to be a police officer, but I'm not willing to hire them. They're not gonna fit in, they're just not gonna work, they'd be too much of a headache. A individual has been identified that I would hire as a police officer. However, there's a old statute that's on the books that prohibits me from doing that until March of next year. So by basically hiring a code enforcement officer, I can utilize this person to do burn pit violations, municipal code violations. I can cross-train them in the dispatch center, do some training towards being a police officer. And once I'm able to, if everything works out, then the code enforcement officer then would be offered a police officer position. And if accepted, then I would not have a code enforcement officer anymore at that point. So it basically, it gives me roughly 4 or 5 months, to see if the guy is gonna stand up to my standards, if he's gonna fit into the community, and if I want him elevated into a police officer.
And what would this person be, like, what, they obviously wouldn't be in uniform, would they just be in standard clothes? Because I feel like if they were in uniform, then they could possibly abuse and go to things that only a police officer can do.
As far as uniform, I definitely would want something that would identify this person as a code enforcement officer. Clearly, it would not be a police officer. And they would not have police officer authority. But I don't want the person just running around in civilian clothes
Right,
either.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I was just wondering, like,
Right.
if they would
And they would get a city
have a
vehicle.
collared shirt with like the enforcement or something.
Correct, and they would get a police vehicle, they'd get a city vehicle without police lights, and it would not say police on the side.
Okay.
And it's in the middle, but to be clear, this is just a temporary one-time.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
You say Kate?
Enforcement officer. Just an idea.
discussion on this?
It's going downhill, I don't think so.
All right, all in favor of the code enforcement officer? Signify by yes.
Yes.
Any nays?
Alright, yeah.
I know.
Is that a yes to the nay?
Yes, aye, nay. All right. That's the affirmative.
Thank you, Council.
Council comments?
Brian, have you heard any more from Senator Cassidy about the tentative visit?
No, we're still on the radar, but we haven't heard any new dates suggestions.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn, all in favor?
Alright.
None opposed? All right. I guess we'll adjourn then.
I'm trying not to.
Yeah. Wait, are you prepared to see?
Whenever I figure it out, I'll send it to you, maybe.